Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, and today, Steven Clausnitzer, CEO and co-founder of a company called Forever Labs, is going to join me in conversation today about how the company is evaluating autologous interventions to extend the healthy human lifespan. Initially launched through the Y Combinator, Forever Labs is now in 20 markets and works with over 50 different physicians. And they also have received several patents, including one for the service providing accelerated healing and reversing hair loss. Not only that, Steven has managed to personally raise over $8 million in funding for Forever Labs, building his brand in a way that continues to make a difference for the future. And not only that, he's an avid supporter of young entrepreneurs and spends his free time mentoring these individuals and growing his startups. In fact, he's even been in the crypto space where he was able to join in on the crypto blockchain market from the ground floor. And if all that's not enough, he's even in a band that's on Spotify. So it sounds like we've got so much to get through today. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to North Carolina, where Steven is waiting to share his story. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Steven. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Steven Clausnitzer. I am the CEO and the co-founder of a company called Forever Labs. We are a company that will store your stem cells so that you can potentially live healthier longer. And we started this company back in 2015. We're now in 20 states in the United States and considering expansion abroad.
And because we're talking about technology and healthcare here, I'm curious, what's your origin story? Where did your passion for tech come from? What lit the spark? And how did those worlds collide for you?
Yeah, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfathers on both sides were business owners. And growing up, I saw them run their companies. And I even worked at them. In particular, I worked at my grandfather Clausnitzer's company growing up, and I saw the satisfaction he derived from, starting his own company and the amount he changed the lives of the people that worked for him, et cetera. And I just kind of always knew I'd be an entrepreneur. As far as technology goes, I would say my advice to any young people out there is keep good company. And my co-founder in Forever Labs is a guy named Dr. Mark Katakowski. He's a medical physicist by training, but had been working in biology for 20 years. And my interest in technology stems largely from conversations from our friendship that we were having. And it led me to a path of combining my desire for entrepreneurship and my passion for technology. And the fruition of that is, Forever Labs. Before we started Forever Labs, Mark and I worked in started a couple of other things as well. So again, just keep good company. I think I was fortunate. We all are fortunate to be born at a time where, technology and things like, being born in the United States, where entrepreneurship is so heavily heralded, I think, and celebrated, which is great, is a good thing. So I think it's just a perfect storm of being born in the right place to the right family and having friends that share the similar passions.
And of course, it was that path that led you to Forever Labs, which allows people to bank their stem cells to help them live healthier and longer. Incredibly intrigued by this. So can you offer a bit of an overview of Forever Labs and how you're helping people with this tech?
Sure. So as you age, unfortunately, you lose stem cells in both number and function. So the older you get, the less of them you have. And in particular, we're talking about mesenchymal stem cells. The less of them you have, and the worse that the ones that remain are because of things like DNA replication errors, telomere shortening, et cetera. So mitochondrial damage, all this stuff accrues. So the older you get, the worse it gets. So it's sort of a slow decline until you reach, your 60s and 70s, and it starts to accelerate pretty darn quickly. So what we do is we'll allow people to store their cells while they're younger. Our clients range in age from 18 years old all the way up to, 65, 70. I would say your stem cells are as good as they're ever going to be right now. And the idea is that you'll bank them so that you can use them in the future, either to treat disease, or perhaps what we're most interested in, Neil, is can we prevent it? So can I take, younger Neil cells, introduce them to you on a schedule to perhaps prevent, a cardiac event or prevent a stroke? These cells build your bone, your connective tissue, your vasculature. They are powerful modulators of your immune response. So when you're injured, your body gives off these mesenchymal stem cells that go to the area of injury, and they help promote healing, decrease inflammation. They can even regrow healthy tissue. So they create osteoblasts, which build your bone. So you could have younger bone when you're older. That's the whole idea. So the moonshot, Neil, is we can take these cells because you can grow them to large numbers, start reintroducing them on a schedule, and keep components of your biology relatively healthy and young, perhaps, ad infinitum, forever. But the sort of most pragmatic reason to do this is there's over 1,000 clinical trials using these types of cells to treat various age-related diseases. So the worst case, you're older, you have a stroke, and you'll have younger cells that you could potentially use to treat that stroke. So that's what we do at Forever Labs, but we're also a regenerative medicine company. We use autologous treatments, meaning autologous means from you, for you, right? So we could use your own biology to treat yourself. We have a number of patents in that area. So we're not just banking stem cells, we're also helping to come up with therapeutic applications for these cells. We've got patents around the ability to preferentially expand these cells. So if we can take your cells and let's say you're 50 years old when you bank your stem cells. If we could apply technology to those cells that preferentially selects for the healthiest among them and grow those, perhaps some of those are, they're all chronologically 50 years old, but perhaps some of them express like they're 40 or 35 years old. We want to grow those cells to reintroduce them. So we have a lot of technology that we're working on all around autologous therapies at Forever Labs. I could go on and on. I want to pause and see if that answered your question.
Cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, it really does. But I'm intrigued by that. How does these autologous interventions, how can that impact the human lifespan? Is there any examples around that you can share?
Well, in humans, as you can imagine, a study like that would take, 60 to 100 years to do. So we don't have that data yet. We do know it's working as far as treating disease. Again, there's over 1,000 clinical trials using these cells to treat things like stroke and traumatic brain injury and cardiovascular disease, osteoarthritis, Alzheimer's. There's an approved use in Japan using these cells to treat early onset Alzheimer's. So it's working. As far as longevity and using these cells specifically just to extend healthy human lifespan, what we do is we do studies in animal models. And we've taken these cells for example, from young mice. And what you do is you put them in genetically matched. So it'd be the same as giving it to yourself later in life, genetically matched older mice, and we see how they fare. We did this study and we took cells from young mice to older mice. We had one group that had age matched cells. So it would be like older mice getting older cells. And then we had one group that was a control group. And the younger mice did much, the ones that received the young stem cells did much better than the other two groups. They've been able to extend healthy lifespan in these mice by like 22%, which is a significant number. And interestingly, the biology of a mouse is not so different from humans. Now, this isn't to say that there would be a direct correlation between those results, but it's very promising.
Wow. Well, I had no idea. And obviously, this is a tech podcast. So can you walk me through how it all works, and also the role that technology plays in all this, and how it's helped you bring this project to life?
Yeah, so it's a huge part of it. Well, I should say we did go through the Tech Accelerator Y Combinator, which is out of San Francisco and has spawned the likes of Airbnb, Dropbox, Reddit, Stripe, et cetera. Technology is a huge part of what we're doing at Forever Labs. Everything from the ability to capture these cells. And the way it works is you go in, you see a physician. It's going to sound scary. It's not, but it's a 15-minute outpatient procedure called a bone marrow aspiration. Yeah. And you use some pretty advanced technology to take the bone marrow out. After that, we ship it to our laboratory in Ann Arbor, where it is processed in a centrifuge, where all of the mononuclear cells are separated from the red blood cells. And this is through a process called centrifugation. And then they are stored in liquid nitrogen, where they are literally rendered biologically inert. And where the tech that Forever Labs has patented and developed comes into play is when you, Neil, want to draw upon those cells and use them. So right now, when you culture expand stem cells, pretty much everyone does it in the same way. They either put them in a flask or in a 3D matrix, and they grow them using culture media and a static temperature and a static oxygen level in devices while they're growing them. So we don't live that way, though. When we live life, we're not always asleep, right? We're active, we're exercising, we intermittently fast, and all these things are good at the cellular level for us. And we developed something that we call dynamic incubation, which has the ability to, in simple terms, has the ability to stress out the cells while you're growing them. So what we do is we dynamically change the oxygen level. We also dynamically change the temperature while the cells are growing. So it's almost as if they're exercising. So it's like, we call it, around the office, we call it self-fit. It's like we're exercising the stem cells. And what happens, just like when you're exercising at home, is in your body, what happens is the cells that are the healthiest, they survive, and the cells are not as healthy die and leave the body. And in this case, the cells that are not as healthy do not culture expand, do not propagate. And so you end up growing the healthiest cells of the lot that you've banked. So we're really excited about that technology. Another piece of technology we developed, we call it Super Shot, is the commercial title name for it. But what it is it has to do with the centrifugation process. And you can use this with either bone marrow or with blood, whole blood. Have you heard of PRP before, Neil?
No, what's that?
This is called platelet-rich plasma. And so athletes all over the world and physicians across the country are using PRP to treat various injuries, also to promote hair growth, and used in aesthetics, and all throughout the orthobiologic space. So what they do is they take out your blood. Let's say you have a bad knee. They'll take out your blood, they'll concentrate all the platelet-rich plasma from your blood, and they'll introduce it into your knee to help promote healing. And it works. It's working very well for a number of indications. The problem is these centrifuges are not able to concentrate sort of the most therapeutically relevant portion of that blood, which are called extracellular vesicles, or exosomes, you may have heard of. They're so small that a centrifuge can't separate them out. Now, in order to study these exosomes in the lab, a ultra high-speed centrifuge, like the size of a washing machine, has to be used and run for about 24 hours. So you can imagine it's not really conducive to therapies, point-of-care therapies. Most hospital systems only have one, if they have one at all. And again, you have to run it for like 24 hours. So we developed what we call Super Shot, and what you do is you add a proprietary compound that we patented to the PRP, and it creates a density gradient when it's centrifuged, kind of like when you mix oil and water and they separate. It does this, and all of these small little extracellular vesicles and exosomes are able to pellet to the bottom of the tube, and you're able to add that to your PRP. Literally billions of your own exosomes to the PRP. And why this matters, why this technology is so cool, is because now you can add these, and what these exosomes do in your body to that knee, Neil, is these exosomes are like little communication packets that go out into your body and give signals to the cells in your body to come to the area of injury and inflammation. So they're little messengers. They go out to your mesenchymal stem cells, and they say, hey, Neil mesenchymal stem cells, we need you here in the knee. And these cells come to the knee and they start promoting the healing process. So it's really, really important technology. We've got several studies going on right now in the ortho space. We've also got a study going on right now in the aesthetic space looking at hair regrowth, and all of it is extremely positive. So we're excited about that technology. And there's tech yet to come that we won't even be the developers of, that but we'll be the ones storing your cells for you so that you can leverage that technology. So the cornerstone of our entire business is banking your stem cells. So if anyone that is listening to this is interested, that's sort of a starting point. Once you have those things banked and they're no longer aging, it is my sincere belief that you're going to have a world of opportunities in the future available to you that you otherwise would not.
So if we zoom out for a moment then, Forever Labs has received several patents, including one for a service providing accelerated healing and reversing hair loss, both of which you mentioned. But what are you most proud of with your work at Forever Labs?
I not to sound cliche, but I'm actually most proud of the team that we have assembled. When you start a company, it was crazy at first, right? It was just me and Mark and an idea, and we brought a few friends in to help us that were in science, flesh it out, but in medicine. But then you start seeing how excited people get about the idea. I'm also proud of the fact that we are working on a problem worthy of solving, right? We didn't start an app to help you get a pizza faster to your house, which, by the way, I love pizza. That's fine. But we're literally trying to solve aging. We're trying to extend healthy human lifespan. And it's nuts to me, Neil, that this isn't the biggest problem we're trying to solve on the planet. I don't know why there isn't some sort of, Apollo program for aging. All of our resources should be around this. It's something that all of us are going to have to contend with or are already contending with. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our mission. I'm proud of the team that we've assembled and the quality of human beings that are working with us. I think it says a lot about what we're doing.
And although I invited you on the podcast today to talk about our Forever Labs, when I did a little bit of research on you before you came on the podcast, I read that you started out in the crypto space where you're able to join in on the cryptocurrency blockchain market right from the ground floor. So can I ask that you tell me more about that and how you grew a startup that you were passionate about from nothing to a multi-million-dollar corporation? Sure.
Well, crypto, again, keep good friends. Mark was an early crypto enthusiast, really into Bitcoin way before it was cool. I think he bought his first Bitcoin sending a check to Canada or something like that. And we got fascinated with it. At the time, I worked at a company called American Express. You may have heard of it. It's a small startup in the United States. And I saw a hack in the terms of American Express gift cards that allowed you to essentially use them like cash. Like you can't contend a charge on that. And back in these days, this is back in like 2013, maybe 12 even, maybe 13, you couldn't use a credit card to buy Bitcoin. And so we set up a little website that would allow you to use American Express gift cards to buy Bitcoin. And it was going really well. But then Mark, one day on a call, just out of nowhere, started telling me about his research using mesenchymal stem cells to treat various traumatic brain injuries in mice, and about how great it was going and about how he felt like he wanted to have his cells banked for later. And we tried to find a company that would do it for us. We couldn't find one. It didn't exist. And we started it ourselves for ourselves and our family. Then it started taking off, and the rest is history. But yeah, we started in crypto. We're just really fascinated with the space. Still am. And it's allowed us, me in particular, it's allowed me, I can't speak for Mark, but to feel a sense of freedom to pursue Forever Labs because, we've done just by owning some crypto, have done well, and therefore can focus on Forever Labs, which I believe, again, we're focusing on the biggest problem in the history of the world, which is aging and age-related disease. So, I'm very fortunate to have been early on in crypto. I think there's a lot of similarities between the crypto space and the longevity space in the sense that both are at the forefronts of something new and inevitable, I would say.
And you're probably too humble to mention, but when researching, I also read that you are an avid supporter of young entrepreneurs, giving back and spending your free time mentoring these individuals. And I think it's something we need to shout about. So can you tell me more about that and why it's so important to you?
Well, it may be the first time I've been called humble, but I will say that I love entrepreneurs, whether they're young, old, whatever. If I go to a party, my wife always says, you'll find the entrepreneur, and it's true. And it doesn't matter if you're the founder of Airbnb or if you started a car wash. I want to talk to you and I want to hear about your journey. I mentor some young entrepreneurs. There's one in particular right now I'm really excited about, a guy named Prashant Sala, who started a company called Fix My Car. I should introduce you to him, but Prashant, he's way smarter than I am. I think all I do is I like to share some of the mistakes I made. I think that's a big part of this is if I can help young entrepreneurs not make some of the same mistakes, they're going to have a faster go of it than I did. And I had people do that with me too. So I'm really just paying it forward.
Oh, I love it. And as for Forever Labs, what's your grand vision? What excites you about where it's heading and the kind of difference that you're going to make in the future as well?
Yeah. So, we started Forever Labs in 2015, I believe. 2016 is when I think consumers started banking with us. And, that means that we have people that have cells that are 6 years younger than banked. My cells are maybe 7 years younger than me now. The future is reintroducing these cells. I want to reintroduce these cells, whether it's to treat disease or to prevent it. And so we're actively doing research and looking into ways that we can do that either here in the United States or outside of the US in a safe and responsible way. We will never do anything outside of the good graces of solid science and medicine and the regulatory community. So we're looking into that right now. The future is Forever Labs leveraging these cells for health maintenance purposes. I see this as a cornerstone of all good future medicine is having this asset set aside. So that's really where a lot of our time and energy is spent is there. We're also right now commercializing SuperShot. So you can go to foreverlabs.com or you can go to supershotprp.com to learn more about either of those two products. SuperShot being used again to help now with healing and now with hair regrowth, et cetera. Forever Labs banking your cells is really more for a future use, but we want to set that future up. And that's what we're working on really hard right now.
And I'm curious, for anyone listening that are thinking, this is a great idea. Maybe I should be thinking about banking my stem cells while I'm of a certain age. How costly is that? Are there any ballpark figures just to help everyone listening?
Yeah. So it's $2,500 to sign up. And then it's all inclusive of the procedure, shipping and processing of the cells, et cetera. And then once a year, and I want to say that again, everyone thinks it's once a month. It's once a year, just once a year. It's $250 for storage. I think it's much more accessible than it used to be when we first started the company. It was $5,000 to do, and we worked really hard to get the cost down. I know it's still a lot of money for some people. We're trying our best to get it down. I want it to be accessible to as many people as possible. We have no interest in starting a company where only the elite people in the world can have access to future health. So, that's the price.
Well, excellent. Well, I wish you the best of luck for the future. And before I let you go, though, I always like to ask my guests to leave everyone listening with a personal touch of inspiration. Maybe share a book that has inspired them or a go-to song or a song that's important to them. Wow. I'm going to put the pressure on you now. What are you going to leave us with today? And is there a story to accompany that choice?
Gosh. Well, I have both. I mean, I'm a musician, so I've released albums. I'm a singer-songwriter. I had a band before I started this company. Before I had kids, I used to be cool. And I had a band called The New Green. You can find us on, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. The New Green, the album was Elaborate Maps. And there's a song called New Kind of Me on there, which is basically about being present and in the moment, which I think too many of us aren't, including myself. As far as a book, there is a book about Teddy Roosevelt after he lost running for the presidency on the Bull Moose ticket by a woman named Candace Millard. And the book is called River of Doubt. It's phenomenal. I mean, this man was amazing. So there's no quit in Teddy Roosevelt. He goes down the Amazon and charts maps new tributaries off of the Amazon. And it's quite an adventure. And if you've never read anything about Teddy Roosevelt, just go read one of his speeches. Read the Man in the Arena speech, which is essentially him saying that it's the man or woman, I would say, that is out there forging a new path, trying new things, starting new things that matters and not the critic. I think that's good advice in life. So check out The River of Doubt. Great book.
Awesome. I'll get the song added to our Spotify playlist and the and the book added to our Amazon wishlist. But before I let you go, for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Forever Labs, have a look around and maybe even contact your team, what's the best starting point?
Go to foreverlabs.com, and there's actually a little chat box in the bottom right-hand corner that'll pop up. You can talk to one of our client liaisons. It's literally a human being. It's not a script or anything like that. So that'd be a good way, or give us a call. The phone number is listed there. And if you're hearing this, look into it. I mean, this is something that, 10, 20 years from now, I think you'll be really glad you did.
Fantastic. I think we've covered so much today, from how autologous interventions can impact the human lifespan, growing a startup that you're passionate about from nothing to a multi-million-dollar corporation, to fundraising a multi-million-dollar investment for startups. And in nearly 2,000 interviews and asking people to leave a song for our Spotify playlist, I think you must be officially the coolest guest, because you're the only guy that's cool enough to have his own band and song on Spotify. So I thank you for that, and wish you, and just thank you for taking the time to share your story with me today.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Neil.
What a great guy. Absolutely loved today's conversation. Certainly got me thinking about, should I be banking my stem cells, or is it too late for me? But if you're younger, it's certainly something to think about, isn't it? To have them stored away just in case you might need them as you get older. But look, I'm no medical expert, and I know we'll have people more qualified than me listening to this podcast. And I invite you to come on here and share your experiences, your insights, things you agree with, things you disagree with, and everything in between. So you can either do that by coming on the podcast and having a conversation and offering a different side of the tale, or send me a quick DM on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes, or an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com, and I'll read out your comments on a future episode. And please remember, if you do have a few moments and you've enjoyed the podcast, please leave a rating and review on whatever platform you listen. It really does help bring more listeners to the podcast. And if you do it, send a screenshot to me and I'll read it out and give you a much deserved shout out. But other than that, it's time for me to go now, but I'll return again tomorrow with another guest. But thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.